We have got some big decisions to make ahead of Euro Fantasy Matchday 4, so why trust just one person when we can ask a whole bunch of experts? Welcome to FPL Mate, my name is Dan, and today we are bringing you the data from some top fantasy managers to build the perfect Matchday 4 team for you guys to use. Okay guys, so first of all, apologies for this. We have only used data from 50 experts this match day because quite frankly, there was just not enough time with these tight turnarounds between deadlines to get the full 100 data that we usually use. But still, I think 50 expert drafts combined data can still create something really, really nice for us. And considering these videos take a while to make, to enter in all of the details, all of the data manually from 50 different drafts, it takes a long time, guys. So if you do appreciate the content right now, make sure you are dropping a like, make sure you do subscribe if you like this kind of thing. But you want to see who the top managers are picking for their fantasy teams, and I want to share that with you. So let's go through the top picks first of all, because this is where we see some trends among the top managers of who they are picking most of all. And there is a standout favorite candidate for this week for Matchday 4, and that is going to be Bruno Fernandes. Is in 96% of teams, so he was in 48 out of 50 of the expert drafts that I collected for this match day. That is a lot, and probably suggests that he's probably the best midfielder to go for. And with not too many budgetary constraints right now, I think most people are struggling to spend 105 million. There's no problem spending the cash, splashing the cash on a Portugal midfielder who is doing quite well, looks pretty good, and definitely going to be progressing throughout the tournament we expect. Mbappe is also in here at 92% selected. That's actually a little bit lower than he was in previous match days, so maybe there's a small trend of moving away from Mbappe, but still 92% is quite a lot. And we also see Mark Guéhi as the new standout defender. Previously, Mittelstadt was the hype defender among the top experts for fantasy football among the Euros. Now it's all about Guéhi at 4.5 million, England defender, getting an insane amount of ball recoveries during the group stages for an England team that is kind of disappointed in attack, but in defense they have definitely proven that they are the team to target. We've got a couple of Germany midfielders here as well, Musiala and Gundogan. Musiala is ahead of Gundogan right now, but if you can't quite afford a Musiala in your team, Gundogan is definitely going to be a good player to go for as well. A couple of forwards here, Kane and Gakpo. We're going to talk about them in a little bit more detail very shortly. Defenders from Spain, Carvajal, Cucurella, definitely worth looking at, and Sabitzer is another Austrian differential midfielder that I think experts seem to love, but the overall player base may be sleeping on this guy. Okay, let's go position by position before we make the final team for you guys to use, starting off with the goalkeepers, and these are the best goalkeepers to go for according to the top managers. And we do see some trends here, although if I'm totally honest with you guys, it does seem like goalkeepers are a little bit of a point of discussion because there is no goalkeeper among experts that's been selected by more than 50%. In fact, we've got Pickford here at 50%. He's in about half of the top managers teams right now, but after that we see the likes of Costa on 42%, Verbruggen and Simon after that. And then after that, it drops off a little bit there as well. Pence at 4 million is an interesting selection here. He plays against Turkey. Yes, Austria are playing against Turkey in the 4th day of Matchday 4. So it might be worth going for him if you want to go super cheap on that second goalkeeper. And actually, Austria have a pretty nice path throughout the tournament and could be successful in future rounds as well. And at that price, I mean, you can't really go too wrong with 4 million for a goalkeeper. Particularly if you don't have a wild card, it might be worth going for a cheaper secondary goalkeeper to use as kind of a backup. We've got the likes of Donnarumma here as well as a kind of, again, a slightly differential goalkeeper to go for Italy. Magnon and Mamardashvili completing the list. Not really sure why he's on there. He's playing against Spain. Yet 4% selected him. I guess it's because he's pretty cheap and he has been making a lot of saves during this tournament. Although I wouldn't be looking forward to clean sheets for him. So if you haven't got a wild card, be aware before going for Georgian players, as it's quite likely that Spain do knock them out. In fact, Spain have the highest chance of knocking out their opposition in Matchday 4 in the round of 16. And therefore, Georgian players are the most risky players that you are probably going to have to transfer out in future match days. Although you have to say, miracles have happened before in football. We have got a lot of different defenders being selected here, but as we said earlier, Gay is the big trend. But we do have a couple of other defenders here that are definitely worth talking about. We've got Mittelstadt here, which is an interesting budget option, 60% selected, 4 million he costs. Carvajal, Cucurella. We spoke about the Spanish defenders before. This is definitely something that seems to be a strong trend going for a lot of Spanish players, and you're going to see a lot of Spain players throughout this video playing against Georgia. They are just good picks right now. After that, after Cucurella, we've got Cancelo, Bastoni. I found it quite interesting, actually. Quite a lot of people going for Italy defenders because, actually, when I was looking at the odds of teams progressing through the round of 16, it seems like Italy versus Switzerland seems to be one of the tighter games. And although I think that will be a low-scoring game, is it worth it to go for an Italy defender? You take a big risk there, but if it pays off, actually, it really could work out, and Italy defenders in particular, could be quite nice to carry through the rest of the tournament if they progress through this round. But I'll let you guys make your mind up about Italy's chances of proceeding through the tournament. But 30% selected for Bastoni is pretty significant. We do also see DeMarco slightly lower down this list if you do fancy going for an Italy defender. We've got Van Dijk and Ake, the two most popular Netherlands defenders to go for. So we see Netherlands defenders in about 50% of the teams that we've seen. Add the Verbruggen data as well, who's at 36%. And we start to see that actually most of our experts are going for at least one defensive asset from the Netherlands. And if you don't have a wild card to use in Matchday 5, I'd definitely be looking to target some Netherlands players. This is quite likely that they do progress to the next round of the tournament. So they are going to be very, very useful for you as they are on the kinder side of the draw for the rest of the Euros. After that, Akanji, risky. Hernandez, a little bit risky maybe against Belgium as well there. We've got some players like Stones there, Walker, so a couple more England defenders. England definitely going to be a very, very popular defence to target throughout the tournament. Lenormand is an interesting Spanish defender if you want to spend 4.5 there. Obviously, we've got Cucurella at 4.5 as well, but if you can't quite afford the 5.5 for Carvajal, it could, again, be worth going slightly cheaper, particularly if you haven't got a wild card and you want to maybe save some money in the bank for future match days, because each match day that goes past, we're going to be selecting from a smaller and smaller pool of players, and it's going to get more and more expensive there. But anyway, you can pause the video and look through some of these other options for defenders, but I would definitely say that if your defender that you have in your team right now is not on this list, you might be in a little bit of trouble, and I'll just go with a little bit of caution, because these are the big trends among our experts. If you are picking someone from outside of these trends, there's maybe some cause for concern that maybe they're not the optimal pick for you to take into the next round of fixtures. So this is, I guess, your transfer list, your transfer targets list for Matchday 4 among defenders. The midfield options list is a little bit shorter than defenders, but there's still a lot of great choices here. We spoke about Fernandes, we've spoken about the Germany midfielders here, Musiala, Gundogan, but I want to highlight some of these Austrian midfielders because these seem to be the big differentials, the big hidden gem players that a lot of our experts are picking for their fixture against Turkey. So really interesting there. Austria have looked pretty good and looking to score goals during this tournament so far, and it's likely that both Sabitzer and Baumgartner are both going to be playing for Austria. I expect Baumgartner is going to come back into the starting 11, even though he was rested in Matchday 3. So that is up to you whether you go for Baumgartner or a Sabitzer. You could potentially go for both as well, but I think having one of them is probably going to be a good idea. We see these Austrian midfielders selected by 64% of our experts, so about 2/3 are going for an Austrian midfielder. The popular one is Sabitzer, as we can see, but definitely there is options to go for Baumgartner there as well. De Bruyne, not so popular this match day either, but I want to talk about, in particular, the Spanish midfielders, because there's been a little bit of discussion in the comments section. A lot of people have been asking, okay, well, why, Dan, are you looking at Pedri? Why are you looking at Williams? Should we be going for Fabian Ruiz instead? Fabian Ruiz, 6.5 million, a nice budget midfielder to go for from Spain, who's done very well so far, and we do see him in 30 32% of expert teams. Now, the answer for me personally, now this video isn't really about me, but the reason why I think players like Williams and Pedri often seem more popular among the experts than Ruiz, even though Pedri, quite frankly, is lower than Ruiz on this particular page. Pedri could actually be a hidden gem, but the reason why Williams in particular is more popular than Ruiz right now is because Williams is playing in a very, very advanced position, and he's looking to score goals and get an assist. He has a lot of history of getting goals and getting assists, whereas Fabian Ruiz is typically a slightly deeper kind of midfielder. He typically only scores 1 goal every 10, 11, 12 games, so it's not really been very consistent in terms of goals throughout his entire career. So I know he's had some form recently, but he's just not really that kind of player who is going to regularly score goals. He could get the occasional assist there as well, but again, Williams, Pedri, these are players with a much more historical context behind attacking returns for them. So if you fancy Ruiz, Fabian Ruiz, for his good form, that's absolutely fine. A lot of our experts do agree with that one. But also, if you want to trust historical data and maybe the odds going forward and looking to the future, then definitely players like Williams and Pedri have those higher chances of goal involvement if you look at the odds, if you look at the data. But guys, still form, you could still maybe go for Fabian Ruiz. And of course, guys, there's plenty of other players on this list as well. Feel free to pause, feel free to take a screenshot if you want to look at this midfield list as your transfer targets list. Now, the forwards list is very concise, actually. I quite like this because we've got Mbappe at the top. We've spoken about Harry Kane being pretty popular as well. And I know a lot of people don't really fancy England attackers right now. We're not seeing Bellingham super high either in the midfield categories. But Kane is definitely a player you can consider going for. We know he has that ability to just get that lucky penalty or tap in. It happens for him. We've already seen it happen for him this tournament. So it does happen, and the bookies do still fancy Kane to do pretty well for the remainder of the tournament. And a great advantage of going for someone like Harry Kane is that if you don't have a wildcard to use in Matchday 5, and I know most people probably don't, you do want to focus on some England players, some Netherlands players perhaps as well, because they've got a good chance of continuing to progress through the tournament on the easy side of the draw, because we see both England and Netherlands on that easy side of the draw, and therefore they're very sensible if you're looking for those longer term picks, players who you want to hold on to for several match days. Kane is going to be very useful for you in that sense, because England actually have a very good chance of making it through to the semi-finals at least. So we expect to see England there. Whether that will actually happen is another discussion entirely, but that's why Kane is so popular for non-wildcarders in Matchday 5. Kane is very much a good pick to go for. Now, after that, we see Cody Gakpo. Similar situation, a Netherlands player who has a very good chance of progressing through the tournament on the easy side of the draw. So, it's a very, very good idea if you are planning ahead and you want to pick players with the intention of them being good to go for several match days, because we have to consider several match days in advance now. We've got 4 match days left, guys, and if you don't have any chips to use, then you're going to have to continue to hold a lot of these players throughout the rest of the tournament. So Gakpo is definitely going to be a useful player in that sense to hold on for as long as possible. 7.5 million, pretty decent as well. He scored a couple of goals this tournament already, so there's definitely some optimism around him. Ronaldo's interesting as well for Portugal, 10 million, 40% selected among our experts. And Morata, 34%, a little bit lower than I expected here. And Yamal finishes the list off. He's picked by just 6%, but I guess he is the differential hidden gem among our forward picks here. You could go for him as well, but I think if you had to choose between Morata and Yamal, and money is no issue, you'd probably go for Morata, even though it's probably a little less exciting, isn't it? Because everyone's very hyped up about Yamal right now. But those are your forwards, just 6 players to choose from, really, according to our expert data. And no one really diversifying from this list of 6 players. So we've got all our data. Let's build a team with it. So according to the data from all of our expert drafts that we have collected for this video, this is the dream team. This is the perfect template team for you guys to go ahead and use. It's a little bit boring because it is just so very normal, I guess, but maybe you can add your own spice to it because there is a little bit of money in the bank there. So let's just go through it, guys, for audio listeners in particular. Pickford in goal, and then in defense we've got Mittelstadt, Gay, so a double up in the England defense, and then we've got the double Spanish defense of Cucurella and Carvajal. So pretty nice so far. In midfield we've got Musiala, Gundogan, so a double up in the midfield for German players. We've got Williams as our Spanish attacker, and he's the only Spanish attacker in this team actually, and Bruno Fernandes is completing the first 11 midfield selections. Up front, Harry Kane and Kylian Mbappe. Nice premium expensive forwards to go for there. On the bench, we've got the players playing later on in the match day, as we often do. Costa and Cancelo represent a double up in the Portugal defence. We've got Sabitzer as our Austrian midfielder to face Turkey, and we've got just one Netherlands player here, Cody Gakpo, against Romania. Could maybe do some damage there. So what we've got here really, guys, is a very balanced team. There is no players there's no teams that have 4 players selected. Of course, in this stage of Euro Fantasy, you can actually pick 4 players from each team. But in this team, because we've got that nice balance, there's no teams that have 4 representatives in this fantasy team, and that means it's going to be quite safe moving through the tournament. If Spain get knocked out by Georgia somehow, you're going to be absolutely fine because you only have 3 Spanish players. If Germany lose to Denmark, it's going to be fine. You only have 3 Germany players. Same with Portugal as well against Slovenia. So we do have a decent amount of balance, but we also have some triple ups here on some of the teams that we expect to progress through the tournament. Now, what I would say is if you don't have a wild card, then maybe you look to get another England player. Maybe you look to get another Netherlands player. And if you do have a wild card, well, actually, you can maybe lose some of these players. You don't have to go for a Gakpo. You don't have to go for a Kane. You can maybe take some more risks in this match day. But I think this is a really nice starting point for your team. And if I was looking to build a Matchday 4 unlimited transfers team from scratch, what I would do is I would start with this team that you see in front of you right now and make my own modifications to it from there. Which are my least favorite players from this team? Who do I think is missing? And we can mix and match based on our own opinions and kind of bring in our own spice to our fantasy team. Because that's the fun of it, right? It's not totally fun just copying another person's fantasy team, although technically this is no one's fantasy team. This is just a template built from data. So yeah, that's fine as well. But guys, however you want to play fantasy, I do hope this video has been super helpful for you guys. If it has been, make sure you do drop a like. Do subscribe as well with notifications on, because we will be going live with a stream tomorrow where I'm going to be finalizing my team for Matchday 4, as well as answering all of your final questions. And hopefully you guys have been enjoying the streams as well. Looking forward to getting stuck in with that. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.